जोड़ी जिम्मेदार जो प्लान करे परिवार।
Hello and welcome. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran and you're watching News Night on DD India, your prime time destination for news and analysis. It's good to see you again. Right, on the show tonight, we take a deep dive into an ambitious infrastructure and connectivity monitoring project launched in New Delhi this morning. Now, in the words of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, it will promote a work culture of not only completing projects on time, but ahead of time. Also on the show, the latest External Affairs Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar's visit to Armenia, plus news and updates from India and around the world. All that and much, much more coming up over the next 1 hour. But first, as always, the headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi launches the PM Gati Shakti Master Plan for Connectivity. The game-changing launch will lead to rapid infrastructure development across ministries and sectors. The Prime Minister says the master plan will give an impetus to the 21st century India. Corporate world hails the launch of the master plan as the world recovers from a slowdown caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. The PM Gati Shakti will help build a new supply-side capacity that can set the wheels of growth in motion. Cumulative coal supplies to thermal power plants crosses 2 million tons. Supply of coal to power plants being increased to ensure sufficient stocks of coal at power plants. The coal minister visits the Deepka coal mine in Korba district of Chhattisgarh, which is one of the largest in the country. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman asserts that there is no dearth of coal in India, calls it misinformation at an interaction at Harvard University in the US. Clarifies that the country was not heading towards deficiency. Figures released by the Power Ministry show no shortfall of power supply to Delhi over the last fortnight. Russian President Vladimir Putin rubbishes allegations that Moscow is using natural gas as a geopolitical weapon. Says Russia is open to discussing additional steps to supply natural gas to Europe. European Commission publishes a toolbox of measures to tackle surging energy prices, accuses Russia of not stepping up supplies. The Ministry of External Affairs criticizes China's objections to the recent visit of Vice President Venkaiah Naidu to Arunachal Pradesh. Says Arunachal Pradesh is an integral and inalienable part of India. Indian leaders routinely travel to the state as they do to any other state of India. External Affairs Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar discusses about enhanced connectivity with his Armenian counterpart in Yerevan, proposes that the Chabahar port in Iran be included in the international north-south transport corridor, which has the potential to bridge connectivity barriers. Indian Army Chief in Colombo on a 4-day visit receives a ceremonial welcome, calls on President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. His visit coincides with the ongoing India-Sri Lanka joint bilateral exercise Mitra Shakti. And top Jaish-e-Mohammed commander killed in an encounter in the Tral area of Jammu and Kashmir. 8 terrorists have been killed in 5 encounters in the valley over the last 3 days. Right, let me dive straight into our cover story. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Wednesday launched the PM Gati Shakti National Master Plan for multimodal connectivity. Ministers, chief ministers and industrialists took part in the function. Now, Prime Minister Modi said this ambitious project lays the foundation of a self-reliant India over the next 25 years.
भारत आने वाले कुछ ही समय में प्रधानमंत्री गति शक्ति का नेशनल मास्टर प्लान उसको देश के सामने करोड़ों देशवासियों को सपना करने वाली एक बहुत बड़ी योजना लेकर के हम आपके सामने आने वाले हैं, उसको लॉन्च करने वाले हैं।
This announcement was made by Prime Minister Narendra Modi from the ramparts of the Red Fort, and in just 2 months' time, on the auspicious day Maha Ashtami, the game-changing master plan, PM Gati Shakti, was launched by the Prime Minister at the Pragati Maidan in Delhi. The National Master Plan for Multimodal Connectivity will speed up infrastructure development in the country by linking 16 ministries, including railways and road and highways.
ये नेशनल मास्टर प्लान 21वीं सदी के भारत को गति शक्ति देगा। नेक्स्ट जनरेशन इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर और मल्टी मॉडल कनेक्टिविटी को इस नेशनल प्लान से गति शक्ति मिलेगी।
PM Gati Shakti will address the past issues through institutionalizing holistic planning for stakeholders for major infrastructure projects. Via centralized portal, several ministries will gain mutual access to in-depth details of projects. Multimodal connectivity will facilitate unified and seamless connectivity for movement of people, goods and services. Infrastructure creation in India had suffered for decades from multiple issues. There was lack of coordination between different departments. Steps have also been taken to address other issues like time-taking approval process, multiplicity of regulatory clearances, etc. Instead of planning and designing separately in silos, the projects will be designed and executed with a common vision. It will incorporate infrastructure schemes of various ministries and state governments like Bharatmala, Sagarmala, inland waterways, dry and land ports, Udan, etc. Doyens of the corporate world hailed the visionary master plan.
The long-term impact will indeed be deep and sustainable. The impact is far beyond just improving the ease of doing business. In fact, it will have a disproportionate impact on improving the ease of living itself.
एक नंबर 1 तो एक सिग्निफिकेंट चेंज आते हैं हमारे वर्क कल्चर में। 16 मिनिस्ट्रीज वर्किंग टुगेदर, टेक्नोलॉजी का जो यूजेज है सब कोऑर्डिनेशन के लिए एक बहुत ही सिग्निफिकेंट एक लैंडमार्क इवेंट में हम कह सकते हैं।
Government policy today clearly focuses on creating an ecosystem measured along multidimensional parameters that will attract private sector investment. Gati Shakti is at the epicenter of this ecosystem.
The launch of PM Gati Shakti National Master Plan will be a game changer for the industry and would help to harness the potential of the industry in line with your vision of scale and speed.
Economic zones like textile clusters, pharmaceutical clusters, defense corridors, electronic parks, industrial corridors, fishing clusters, agriculture zones will be covered to improve connectivity and make Indian businesses more competitive. It will also leverage technology extensively, including planning tools with ISRO imagery. PM Gati Shakti is based on 6 pillars. These are comprehensiveness, prioritization, optimization, synchronization, analytical tools, and dynamic platform. PM Gati Shakti is the result of the Prime Minister's relentless efforts to build next-generation infrastructure that makes life easier as well as doing business easier. Arun Sharma's report, DD India.
Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi says people, Indian industry, manufacturers and farmers are at the center of the PM Gati Shakti. A gap in planning and implementation, problems of lack of coordination and working in silos are hampering projects and leading to wastage of budget. The new master plan aims to optimize the utilization of resources. The Prime Minister also inaugurated a new exhibition complex at the Pragati Maidan in New Delhi on the occasion.
With the launch of the Prime Minister Gati Shakti National Master Plan on Wednesday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi reiterated the resolve of building an Atmanirbhar Bharat, which is the foundation of New India being laid for the next 25 years. The Prime Minister stressed that the people of India, Indian industry, business, manufacturers of India and Indian farmers are at the center of this Gati Shakti Master Plan. It will give new energy to the present and future generations to build the India of the 21st century.
आज का मंत्र है Will for progress, work for progress, wealth for progress, plan for progress, preference for progress. हमने न सिर्फ परियोजनाओं को तय समय सीमा में पूरा करने का वर्क कल्चर विकसित किया, बल्कि आज समय से पहले प्रोजेक्ट पूरे करने का प्रयास हो रहा है.
Prime Minister Modi said that the gap between macro planning and micro implementation is the root cause of hurdles in the country's path of development. That is the reason why policy planning and their budget allocation do not bear the required results. The Prime Minister also lamented the fact that the subject of infrastructure in our country has not been a priority for most political parties.
हमारे देश में इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का विषय ज्यादातर राजनीतिक दलों की प्राथमिकता से दूर रहा है. यह उनके घोषणा पत्र में भी नजर नहीं आता है. अब तो यह स्थिति आ गई है कि कुछ राजनीतिक दल देश के लिए जरूरी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के निर्माण पर आलोचना करने में गर्व करते हैं, जबकि दुनिया में ये स्वीकृत बात है कि सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट के लिए क्वालिटी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का निर्माण एक ऐसा रास्ता है जो अनेक आर्थिक गतिविधियों को जन्म देता है, बहुत बड़े पैमाने पर रोजगार का निर्माण करता है.
Prime Minister Modi recalled that when he took over as the Prime Minister in 2014, he reviewed hundreds of stuck projects and put them all on a single platform to realize the collective power of the government in fulfilling schemes.
मैं जब 2014 में यहां दिल्ली एक नई जिम्मेवारी के साथ आया, तो भी ऐसे सैकड़ों प्रोजेक्ट थे जो दशकों से लटके हुए थे. लाखों करोड़ रुपए के ऐसे सैकड़ों प्रोजेक्ट्स की मैंने खुद समीक्षा की. सरकार के सारे विभागों, सारे मंत्रालयों को एक प्लेटफॉर्म पर लाकर खड़ा कर दिया, सारी रुकावटों को दूर करने का प्रयास किया. मुझे संतोष है कि अब सबका ध्यान इस ओर गया है कि आपसी तालमेल की कमी की वजह से परियोजनाओं में देरी ना हो.
The Prime Minister cited different examples to elucidate that Gati Shakti Master Plan will not only create immense employment opportunities but also reduce logistic cost, improve supply chains and make local goods globally competitive.
PM Gati Shakti अब ये सुनिश्चित करेगी कि 21वीं सदी का भारत इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर प्रोजेक्ट में कोऑर्डिनेशन में कमी की वजह से ना पैसे का नुकसान उठाए और ना ही समय गंवाए. पीएम गति शक्ति नेशनल मास्टर प्लान के तहत रोड से लेकर रेलवे तक, एविएशन से लेकर के एग्रीकल्चर तक विभिन्न मंत्रालयों को, विभागों को इससे जोड़ा जा रहा है.
The Prime Minister also inaugurated 4 exhibition complexes of the International Exhibition cum Convention Centre at Pragati Maidan on the occasion. He expressed the hope that with the development of quality infrastructure, India can realize the dream of becoming the business capital of the world, thereby increasing our global competitiveness. With Arun Sharma, News Night Desk, DD India.
Now, before I bring in my guest for a discussion, I want to quickly recap for the benefit of you, the viewer, who might be joining us from India and abroad, about the Prime Minister Gati Shakti National Master Plan for Multimodal Connectivity. Let's pull up some graphics for you. First up, you need to know what is the PM Gati Shakti. Now, simply put, it is a digital platform for coordinating implementation of infrastructure connectivity projects. It's an analytical decision support governance tool. Now, if you didn't notice already, the name Gati Shakti is made up of two Hindi words, Gati and Shakti. Gati means speed and Shakti means power. Now, it's been developed by the Gandhinagar, Gujarat-based Bhaskaracharya National Institute for Space Applications and Geoinformatics. It's an autonomous body under the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India. Next, if you're wondering, what does it do? Well, the PM Gati Shakti helps in integrated project planning. It brings together 16 different ministries such as railways and roadways. Next up, what do we know about the background of Gati Shakti? Now, Prime Minister Modi announced the decision to set up the PM Gati Shakti on 15th August, India's Independence Day. And 60 days later, he launched the 100 lakh crore rupee, over $13 trillion National Master Plan for Multimodal Connectivity on 13th October, that's Wednesday. Let's now come to the objectives of this project. It aims to promote faster economic growth and also meet the target of a $5 trillion economy by 2025. Next up, why is the PM Gati Shakti needed? Now, there's an urgency to move from traditional development planning methods which lead to lopsided development and regional or sectoral imbalances to more modern and technology-oriented methods. Let's now come to the benefits of the PM Gati Shakti. For one, faster execution of projects. 2, avoidance of delays. 3, avoidance of cost overruns. 4, reduction in logistics costs. And last but not the least, removal of missing gaps for seamless movement of people, goods, and services. And last but not the least, the technology will be put to use. Now, it's a geographic information system based enterprise resource planning system, more than 200 layers for evidence-based decision making, planning tools for route planning, land acquisition, permissions, issues of right of way, and congestion reduction, a dashboard for monitoring the progress of projects, and finally, satellite imagery for visual understanding. So that was all about the PM Gati Shakti project. Right, time now for In Focus segment in which we're discussing about PM Gati Shakti, a game changer for India's infrastructure. And joining me are two guests, Dilip Chenoy, Secretary General FICCI, and Shishir Sinha, Senior Deputy Editor of the Hindu Business Line newspaper. Gentlemen, welcome to News Night. If I can start with you, Shishir. Now, first up, help our viewers understand the thought process behind the PM Gati Shakti.
This particular program has two elements or two pillars, what I can say. The first pillar is about a kind of coordination among all the ministries and departments. So on this particular platform, 16 central ministries and departments have been brought, like railway, like civil aviation, like port, surface transport, and all those. So that if a particular project is coming up at one particular point, what is the best thing can be done for that particular project by other government ministries and other government departments. You can call it as a point-to-point connectivity for one particular project. So this is pillar number one, where we are talking about coordination among all the ministries and departments so that one particular project gets maximum benefit of that. The second one is the bringing down the cost of logistics. I mean, we all know that double-digit logistic cost in any developing country, in any emerging competitiveness. So you have a logistic cost of say 12% or 13%. It is not something which is going to give you advantage in the global market. So you have to bring it down. So I think these two pillars, this particular concept is working on these two pillars, and hopefully we will have a better infrastructure in coming days because of this particular program.
Absolutely, without doubt. Mr. Chinoy, let's get the industry perspective on this issue now. What's in it for the Indian industry, Mr. Chinoy?
Shishir actually mentioned the first thing is if it brings down the cost of logistics, right? It increases competitiveness of companies and the country as a whole. The second and equally important is that for industry to understand what are the projects that are happening around it, what is the likely date of completion, and what are the missing links, actually provides it with decision-making ability on how to address the short-term, challenges that they are facing. Third, just to give you an example, if you see that, the Prime Minister actually mentioned it when he was inaugurating it. He said, if the road is laid, then the water people come and dig it up, then somebody else comes and does it, and it's always work in progress. So, if you are at one end, if there was an industry at one end and a port at another end of that road, forever, the time to actually reach the port would be larger than what if the project was finished on time. So it will actually speed. So, it'll actually enable companies to increase speed or delivery, speed of, reaching the market. And also, from a different perspective, and you mentioned it when you were giving the highlights of the scheme, there are sometimes there's just a small stretch of road which needs to be built, but because it's no one's radar screen, right? It does not get built here. So in this way, from end-to-end connectivity, the satellite imagery, the whole projects will actually point that out, and you can improve the logistics from end to end. The Prime Minister in his speech said there's a port, there's an industrial estate, but they're not connected. And if you can do this, this will point it out it's not connected. If you connect it to the railway, it will improve connectivity, it will improve the speed to market, and improve the competitiveness of industry in India.
Indeed. Shishir, I want to address some more nuts and bolts issues for the benefit of our viewers joining us from home and abroad. Now, we are told that the PM Gati Shakti is a digital platform. Now, the question that comes to one's mind is who is the user, who are the stakeholders, who can benefit from this platform? Is it the government agencies in the center and the states? Is it industry in general?
Any project implementing agency, like one particular, say, company is developing a port or one particular ministry is behind one particular project, it needs to know and it needs to put all the information on the portal so that the other ministries and other departments also know that what kind of project is coming up.
Right.
So accordingly, they can provide some kind of support if it is needed. Like Dilip was talking about point-to-point connectivity. I can give you one example of Delhi Metro. On one particular line, one particular stretch was not completed because of a small land acquisition issue. So it was not clear that how it is going to happen. Everybody was knowing about the problem, but the solution was not available. And ultimately, the Delhi Metro managed to resolve the issue, but it took a whole lot of time. So this kind of missing points that need to be addressed for a successful completion of the project. We should also understand that because of this missing link, the project goes for cost overrun. So if I take some data from Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, there are more than 480 projects which are going for the cost overrun, and the cost overrun is amounting something around 4.43 lakh crore. This is a huge amount. And that amount can be used for the other project also.
Absolutely.
So on the one hand, we are trying to find the missing link. We are also trying to find how that missing link can be completed. And at the same time, we are trying to ensure that the project should not go for the cost overrun so that resources can be utilized in the best possible manner.
Indeed. Mr. Chinoy, the Prime Minister has spoken about 100 lakh crore rupee investment over the next several years into beefing up, augmenting infrastructure projects across the length and breadth of the country. From an industry perspective, can we expect ports, airports, highways, roads in urban and rural areas, which could benefit a wider cross-section of people, at the same time generate employment, generate jobs, and also boost economic growth across sectors?
Yeah, certainly. It's actually going to have three types of multiplier effect. The first is the mere creation of that infrastructure will lead to job creation, as you mentioned. Second, because the infrastructure is created and it is increasing the competitiveness of companies located in that area, it will help India access global markets. Third, since the infrastructure is there and we are planning for the next century, as the Prime Minister said, it will attract more investment into those areas, and the newer investments that are attracted there will create further jobs. I think it's actually a network effect, as was mentioned by Rivago when the founder was speaking today. It will also provide a new opportunity for startups to actually look at new areas of opportunity and disrupting existing methods going forward. So it's actually going to have a multiplier effect as it progresses. The other aspect is that when the infrastructure network becomes there, it becomes more efficient, and it will reduce the cost of, the Prime Minister in his address talked about, the cost of logistics being 13 to 14%, right? And if the attempt is to reduce it to single digit, and if that happens, that will have another multiplier effect on all, the industry and the economy. But it will also mean, if it's whether it is digital connectivity, whether it is other types of connectivity, it will also improve the lives of people, in the country.
Mr. Chinoy, I have a follow-up question to your observations there. Now, we are talking about more than $13 trillion worth of projects over the next many, many years. How would this resonate with the foreign investors across continents? Would this boost the Prime Minister's efforts, attempts to diversify other countries' supply chains to India? We're talking of a China plus model, according to American corporates. So is that an incentive enough for FDI to come into India in a big way once again?
Manufacturing sector, there is much more than this being done. This is, of course, an icing on the cake. And, a lot of people, when they were talking about initially, they were saying, you have complicated labor laws that has been addressed through labor courts. You have, complicated, and high taxation rates that has been addressed by reducing the taxation for manufacturing companies to 15% for a period of window. Then they talked about ease of doing business. That has also been improved. And then the PLI schemes that have been covered, different sectors, and the mobile story is itself a story here. How do we get global corporations to set up manufacturing in India and actually serve the world from India? Infrastructure was the other area, and this really initiative that was launched today will be a game changer. This will not only be a magnet to attract investment, but in the infrastructure sector, but also companies. I mean, the way you can use this whole Gati Shakti thing is actually locate your projects where you see infrastructure coming up. I think the classic thing that was actually addressed today was this fertilizer plant, which is coming up without gas connectivity. So, then with this thing, that would not have happened. They would have actually delayed, either accelerated the gas connectivity or delayed the manufacturing of the setting up of the fertilizer plant. So the money would be much more well spent. And I think the impact on the ground will be exponentially proportional to the investments made here.
Shishir, you've tracked the economy very closely for years on end now. A general complaint or refrain is the delays in executing projects, corruption, leakages, and so on and so forth. Now, this use of technology, GIS-based technology or satellite imagery and real-time monitoring of projects, would you think it's like Mr. Chinoy said, it's a game changer? I mean, this is going to set the trend or the agenda of India's development path over the next many decades.
Very true. And if I understand correctly, there could be a dashboard kind of thing where what is happening, who is doing what, everybody will be able to know that. See, the issue is the transparency. There are various agencies involved in any kind of project approval. So if agency A is not knowing what the agency B is doing, or if agency B is not knowing how much time agency A is taking, then it will have a multiplier effect on the entire project thing. So if everyone is knowing whosoever is what doing, and then there is a kind of supervision at the top that one particular project, one particular agency is doing in a proper manner or not, then that particular agency will always be in a better position to deliver, or that will be prompted to deliver in a better manner. So I believe when we talk about digital infrastructure, the best part of digital thing is that everything is transparent. People know that what is happening. One person know what the other person is doing. The entire coordination between various agencies, whether it at the central level or whether at the state level, that will be possible. Now, one thing, my only issue here is that whether the state agencies are also involved into this operation, this mechanism or not. If they are able to do so, because what happens that you start a project, you need an approval from the sanitation department, or you need approval from the water board. That is under the local body of the state government. If it is not on the dashboard, then it can create some problem for that. So we need to understand that whether these kind of institutions, whether these kind of bodies are also available on the dashboard or not, then there will be a better coordination, and then there will be a possibility of completion of project and execution of project in a very timely manner.
Indeed. Mr. Shinoy, very quickly now, states are key to setting up of projects across the country. Now, in your estimation, from an industry perspective, you think the states need to get on board and embrace this new method of doing business, as Prime Minister calls it, so that investors are not shortchanged?
I think absolutely. And the Prime Minister in his inaugural address actually made an appeal to all states to come on board. And there were some chief ministers from different states, there were lieutenant governors from union territories, and there were industry ministers from other states. I think the states will find it advantageous, because now, this is a new tool in the hands of states in this whole thing of competitive federalism, right? Cooperative and competitive federalism. States, smart states and smart industry ministers and chief ministers from states will actually look at this dashboard, look at where they can actually amplify and multiply the projects that are being launched by the 16 different ministries, and how they can actually connect and support with the local connections and the local permissions, as Shishir mentioned. I think, I believe it's only a matter of time when the states realize the potential of this and come on board. But states are critical to this, and I really believe that they should respond positively to the Prime Minister's the carrion claw to be on this platform.
Right, gentlemen, I'm afraid I'm running out of time, so I'll have to leave it at that. May I thank both my guests, Mr. Dilip Chinoy and Shishir Sinha, for making time for us here at Newsnight. Appreciate it. Right, shifting to other stories we are tracking here on Newsnight. Minister of Coal and Mines Prahlad Joshi has expressed happiness over the increase in supply of coal to thermal power plants from all sources. In a tweet, the minister said cumulative coal supplies, including that from Coal India Limited, recorded more than 2 million tons on Tuesday. He said coal dispatch to power plants will be further increased to ensure sufficient stocks with the power plants.
The government on Wednesday rejected claims of coal shortage in the country and said that there has been an increase in supply of coal to thermal power plants from all sources. Union Minister of Coal and Mines Prahlad Joshi said that the cumulative coal supplies, including that from Coal India Limited, have recorded more than 2 million tons on Tuesday. Talking to media persons in Chhattisgarh after visiting the silo loading system at Dipka coal mine of southern eastern coalfields, the minister stated that coal dispatch to power plants will be further increased to ensure sufficient stock with power plants.
बिजली उत्पादन के लिए आज के दिन में 1.1 मिलियन टन कोयला जरूरत है और हम आज के दिन ऑलरेडी 2 मिलियन कर चुके हैं। थोड़ा थोड़ा इसके कारण स्टॉक भी बढ़ रहे हैं और मैं इतना आश्वस्त करता हूं, देश में बिजली उत्पादन के लिए आपूर्ति पूरा करने के लिए कोई समस्या नहीं होगी।
During his visit to Dipka coal mine of southeastern coalfields, the union minister directed officials to remove all constraints and work towards increasing coal dispatch to thermal power plants. He also visited the railway siding at Dipka coal mine in Korba, Chhattisgarh. The minister also visited the country's largest open-cast mine, Gevra coal mine, to have a better understanding of the on-ground issues. He motivated the team Gevra to increase coal output from the mine. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, who is on a visit to the USA, stressed that there is no shortage and termed reports of coal shortage as absolutely baseless, saying India is a power surplus country. She made the comments while attending a program on the theme of structural reforms and inclusive development, India's experience at the Harvard Kennedy School in Boston, USA.
Absolute baseless. There's no shortage of anything. In fact, if I recall the minister's statement, every power producing installation has the next 4 days stock absolutely available within their own premises, and the supply chain has not broken at all.
Minister of State for Coal and Mines, Rao Sahib Patil Danbe, said that sufficient stock of coal is present and it is the responsibility of states to maintain coal stock. The industry too believes that the issue of energy crisis is not real but just a hype.
महाराष्ट्र और अन्य राज्य उनके डिमांड और सप्लाई के अनुसार हमें सेंट्रल को लिखते हैं कि हमें इतना कोयला चाहिए, लेकिन पर्याप्त स्टॉक होने के बाद भी आज उनका कहना है कि हमारे पास कोयला नहीं है। मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि आज हमारे पास 40 मिलियन टन कोयला है और कोयला घरों में 7 मिलियन टन कोयला अभी भी है।
Yes, there was an issue, but nobody has yet experienced a situation जहाँ के रेक डाइवर्सिफाई हो डाइवर्टेड हो जाते हैं। वो जो एक वो जो सिग्नल्स वो नहीं मिले हैं कि क्राइसिस एक इमरजेंसी क्राइसिस का। एंड आई थिंक we do believe that the government and with all stakeholders together, we will be able to overcome that, and we will be able to get over this very soon.
The Ministry of Power also busted myth regarding power supply position in Delhi. The Ministry of Power said that the maximum demand of Delhi was 4,683 megawatt peak and 101.9 million units of energy on 11th of October 2021. Similarly, for example, on 6th of October, demand was 5,189 megawatt and 111.0 million units of energy, and the required amount of power was supplied to them. Since the last week of September, several states have been in touch with the centre on the issue of an energy shortage due to the lack of supply of coal to thermal power plants. However, the union government has made it clear, citing facts and figures, that there is no reason to panic since coal production has actually increased. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
Now, energy demand has surged worldwide as economies have rebounded from COVID-19 pandemic. Now, Europe's gas squeeze has shown a spotlight on Russia, which accounts for a third of the region's supplies, prompting European politicians to blame Moscow for not pumping enough. Now, the European Commission outlined measures on Wednesday to combat the energy crisis. EU countries will now hold an extraordinary meeting on 26th October to discuss about how to cushion the price spikes. Here's the report.
Surging energy demand across the world as economies rebound from the COVID-19 pandemic. The fallout? Oil, gas and coal price rise, stoking inflationary pressures. Amidst a crisis that has seen natural gas prices skyrocket almost 600% this year, shivers were sent among European leaders, raising concerns of a winter fuel crisis that could play into the hands of gas-rich Russia. The EU, which imports 90% of its gas, has accused Russia for not stepping up supplies. Russian President Vladimir Putin hit back on Wednesday, saying that Russia was boosting gas supplies to Europe and stood ready to stabilize the market. He dismissed any idea that Russia was using energy as a weapon.
And you are talking about accusations against Russia that it uses energy sources as a weapon. That is complete nonsense and rubbish, politically motivated, non-justified blather. Even in the toughest periods of the Cold War, Russia regularly, on a routine basis, fulfilling its contractual obligations, supplied gas to Europe.
To tackle the surging energy prices, the European Commission on Wednesday published a toolbox of measures. 20 EU countries mulled to draw up emergency measures, including energy tax cuts or subsidies for poorer households, and exploring joint gas purchasing among countries as a way to cushion price spikes. Germany is the only exception in Europe which currently does not see any gas supply shortages. German Energy Ministry said that the capacity of German gas storage is higher than that of other countries such as Britain. China, the world's second biggest economy and its biggest greenhouse gas emitter, has boosted coal output and imports as domestic coal prices have hit record levels and power stations have struggled to keep the lights on in homes and factories. In the USA, natural gas prices recently hit 12-year highs. The global energy crunch has thus amplified International Energy Agency (IEA's) call for tripling investment in renewables to steady markets and fight climate change. The IEA said the world had to invest $4 trillion by 2030 in clean energy and infrastructure to achieve net zero emissions and limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2050, which was the target of the 2015 Paris Climate Accord. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
Right, moving on, in response to a media query about Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson's comments on the recent visit of Vice President Venkaiah Naidu to Arunachal Pradesh, the Indian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Arindam Bagchi said, and I quote him here, "We have noted the comments made today by the Chinese official spokesperson. We reject such comments. Arunachal Pradesh is an integral and inalienable part of India. Indian leaders routinely travel to the state of Arunachal Pradesh as they do to any other state of India." Now, objecting to the visit of Indian leaders to a state of India does not stand to reason and understanding of Indian people. Further, as we have mentioned earlier, the current situation along the LAC in the western sector of the India-China border areas has been caused by unilateral attempts of Chinese side to alter the status quo in violation of the bilateral agreements. Therefore, we expect the Chinese side to work towards early resolution of the remaining issues along the LAC in eastern Ladakh while fully abiding by bilateral agreements and protocols rather than trying to link unrelated issues, unquote. External Affairs Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar is visiting Armenia on the last leg of his three-nation tour of the region. He held talks with his Armenian counterpart Ararat Mirzoyan in capital Yerevan. They discussed about a roadmap to take the bilateral cooperation forward. They agreed on enhancing trade, education and cultural exchanges. The two leaders recognized shared interests in strengthening connectivity, including the international North-South transport corridor. Minister Jaishankar said India supports the OSCE Minsk process and that India and Armenia will cooperate closely in international organizations and multilateral fora. Minister Jaishankar met the President of the National Assembly of Armenia, Alan Shimonyan. They discussed about the importance of nurturing the bonds between the two parliamentary democracies. They spoke about bringing the two peoples closer together through greater cooperation in different domains. Minister Jaishankar appreciated Mr. Shimonyan's perspective on regional and international issues of shared interest. Minister Jaishankar paid homage to Mahatma Gandhi at a statue in Yerevan. He thanked his Armenian counterpart for joining him on this occasion. Together, they planted a tree of friendship. The minister met Indian students and Armenian friends of India. He appreciated the efforts made by the government of Armenia for the welfare of Indian students. The External Affairs Minister called on Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan. He conveyed greetings of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The meeting brought out the many convergences and shared outlook of the two countries. They agreed to develop a broad agenda of practical cooperation to their mutual benefit. Bureau Report, DD India. Right, moving on, Indian Army Chief General M.M. Naravane, who was on a 4-day visit to Sri Lanka, paid tribute to the brave hearts of the Indian Army who laid down their lives during peacekeeping operations in Sri Lanka. He laid a wreath at the Indian Peacekeeping Force War Memorial. He interacted with veterans of the Sri Lankan Army as well.
Indian Army Chief Manoj Mukund Naravane was accorded a ceremonial welcome in the Sri Lankan capital of Colombo on day one of his visit to the island nation to boost defence ties. Naravane was welcomed at the Sri Lankan Army headquarters by Commander General of the Sri Lankan Army, Shavendra Silva.
My visit also coincides with the ongoing India-Sri Lanka joint bilateral military exercise Gati Shakti, which is the largest bilateral exercise being undertaken between us. I shall be witnessing the culmination phase of this exercise along with General Silva. These exercises form a major part of India and Sri Lanka's growing defence relationship.
Throughout history, India has immensely helped us, including a large amount of training. A large number of officers and other ranks of the Sri Lankan army are undergoing training in Indian military training camps. At the same time, Indian Army officers take part in our courses and in exercises.
General Naravane also met Sri Lankan President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. The President, in a tweet, said, met with the visiting Indian Chief of Army Staff, General Manoj Mukund Naravane, this morning. As I was recalling my years of service as Army officer in India, I was happy to hear that General Manoj commit to providing special military training to 50 selected Sri Lankan officers. General Naravane also met Sri Lankan Defence Secretary, retired General Kamal Gunaratane. The Indian High Commission, in a tweet, said close camaraderie and cooperation were recalled to explore newer avenues for deepening defence ties between India and Sri Lanka. General M.M. Naravane also called on Foreign Secretary of Sri Lanka, Admiral Jayanath Kolambage, and discussed issues of bilateral cooperation. General Naravane will also see the final leg of the joint military exercise between the two neighbours called Mitra Shakti during his 5-day visit. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
At the domestic stock markets, both the Sensex and the Nifty surged to fresh closing highs on Wednesday. So the Sensex at the BSE spurted 453 points or 0.8% to a new record closing peak of 60,737. The Nifty at the National Stock Exchange jumped 170 points or 0.9% to a new lifetime closing high of 18,162. In the broader market, the BSE mid-cap index surged 1.6% and the small-cap index gained 0.6%. All the sectoral indices on the BSE except the realty index ended in the green. The auto index was the biggest gainer, spurting 3.5%. In the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, a top commander of Jaish-e-Mohammed terror outfit was killed in an encounter with security forces in Tral in South Kashmir's Pulwama district this afternoon. Police said he was first arrested in 2004 and spent 2 years in jail under the PSA. He became active after coming out of jail.
मॉर्निंग में पुलिस को इत्तला मिली थी कि वागड़ विलेज में जेस का टॉप कमांडर छिपा हुआ है, तो पुलिस सीआरपी आर्मी को लेके कॉर्डन डाला। कॉर्डन डालते ही अंदर से फायरिंग आ गया, फिर थोड़ा देर ऑपरेशन को रोक दिए, सरेंडर करने का मौका दिए, उसने सरेंडर नहीं किया। फिर ऑपरेशन जारी हो गया जिसमें एक टेररिस्ट मारा गया जिसका पहचान हुआ है शमीम सोफ़ी, उसको हम लोग सम सोफ़ी के नाम से जानते हैं। जेस का लोकल कमांडर में नंबर 1 पर भी है। सबसे पहले इसको 2004 में हम लोग अरेस्ट किए थे और 2 साल PSA काटा था, फिर ये जेल से आने के बाद एक्टिव हो गया था और 2019 जून में ये टोटली एक्टिव हो गया था और उसके बाद बहुत सारे सिविलियन किलिंग किया था। जो भी बाहर से जेस के पाकिस्तानी टेररिस्ट आते थे इसको ये शेल्टर देता था, उसको रहने के लिए हाइडआउट देता था और इसके मारे जाने से उस एरिया में सिक्योरिटी पुलिस को बहुत कमी मिली है।
Moving on, a Mumbai court has adjourned hearing for tomorrow on bail applications of Aryan Khan, Arbas Merchant and Munmun Dhamija. Shah Rukh Khan's son Aryan was arrested on 2nd October along with 7 others after the NCB raided an alleged drug party on a cruise ship. To international news now. Standing beside North Korea's largest missiles, leader Kim Jong-un said his country's weapons development is necessary in the face of hostile policies from the United States and a military buildup in South Korea, the state media said on Tuesday. Kim made the remarks standing next to a variety of weapons, including the country's intercontinental ballistic missiles, a video released by the state TV showed. Now, during the exhibition, Kim said his country's weapons development is necessary in the face of hostile policies from the United States and a military buildup in South Korea. Now, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un also watched an extreme martial arts demonstration by soldiers at a military event marking the 76th founding anniversary of its ruling party. In a video aired by the North's state-run television KRT, soldiers performed multiple shows of strength, smashing items, breaking free from chains, lying on glass and throwing knives. Kim smiled and clapped as he watched the show at the Defense Development Exhibition Self-Defense 2021. Now, Wednesday saw the devout take part in the festivities associated with Durga Ashtami, the 8th day of the Navaratri festival. Since the festivities were seen across many states, President Ramnath Kovind, Vice President Venkaiah Naidu and Prime Minister Modi greeted citizens on the occasion. We leave you with the sights and sounds of Mahashtami and Navaratri being celebrated in Beijing and in Bangladesh. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Sita! Oh, Shri Ram! Prabhu, Ravan, the demon king, kidnapped Mother Sita and took her to his kingdom Lanka, which is located across the sea, to destroy the magic of Ravan and help us emerge victorious. It's not possible.
सरस्वती चंडी पार्वती दुर्गा दुर्गति घेंटा रागता शुमनि शुंभनिका दिमा विपचा धुम खिट धना ना 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 धा नंदा धागे सुनंदा